Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to do this without editing this video because I just want to post it and get it over with. I do want to share my screen. Let's look. I'm looking at the Etsy Q3 results, and this is the investor presentation that went up yesterday. I don't understand. Well, I do understand why investors are excited about bad results like this. There are a few things they threw in here that are a little iffy, but let me go over and I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the slides from the presentation and see what they were talking about yesterday. It's not good. I'm looking at this going, this is not good, but the stock price isn't doing anything. So I always kind of look at the stock price. It always goes up a little bit right after a presentation, then it goes back down. Today, it's not doing much. All right. So you can find these slides if you go to the Etsy homepage on desktop, go all the way to the bottom, click the investors link and click on events and presentations, and it will bring this up. And I believe that this is presentation in the webcast from yesterday. All right. So, now keep in mind that Etsy always says that everything is great, because they can't go into an investor presentation and say, boy, we really sucked this quarter. It was bad. But if you look at the numbers, it's not that great. So basically Etsy has Etsy, Depop, and Reverb. Okay, Depop is for used clothing. It's basically a clothing resale site. And Reverb is for used musical instruments. So it's like an eBay for musical instruments. Etsy owns all three of those. So they put those all together in the results. And then you have to kind of pull Etsy specifically out of that because they'll lump everything together and it's hard to see what's actually going on. But if you look at all of them consolidated, GMS is gross merchandise sales. So on all three of those sites, it was down 4.1% year over year. That's not good. Okay. But then if you go over here to the left, on the left-hand side, it says Etsy Marketplace GMS was down 6% year over year. That's even worse. Okay. So I'm not sure I don't know what they were projecting. I don't know. But gross merchandise sales is sales that people come to Etsy and buy things. So if the 6% drop in that tells me that either Etsy is harder to use or it's not as effective or it's not showing people the right things. But then the rest of their message was that Etsy search is great. We're showing everybody what they want. Okay, what? I don't know. Okay, so, and it could be outside factors. It could be the economy. It could be whatever. But the fact is that Etsy itself, gross merchandise sales were down 6% compared to last Q3 in 2023. All right. And all of these numbers over here on the right include the other things that they own. All right, strong progress, improving customer experiences. If they're improving the customer experience, then your gross merchandise sales wouldn't be dropping. I hate to break it to you, Etsy. Okay, so anyway, this is the things they told they're never going to tell the investors, oh, we've screwed things up. But they're still working on this. This is called, we're going to drive this into the ground until we have to give it up because we're convinced this is going to work. All right, maybe it will. I don't know. I doubt it. Okay, gifting destination and loyalty program. The loyalty program is that Etsy beta, Etsy insider thing, right? And they rolled that out to people who might shop on the site again, but they haven't for a while. They're not offering that to people who are on Etsy buying all the time or to new customers. They want to use this to bring people back who have purchased on Etsy before but haven't in a while. So there we go. And they want to really push the app. That's important for us as sellers because the more people who shop on the app, the more we have to pay attention to the app and how it presents things to people. So just keep that in mind going forward. Gifting destination. I think that this is why people saw a big drop in sales in October. A lot of people did. I saw an increase because I was selling a lot of Halloween stuff all of a sudden. And I think Etsy was suggesting that to people. Today is Halloween. Hey, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. It's Halloween. But my sales have flatlined. They're very slow right now because for October, I was selling a lot of Halloween stuff, but Halloween is here and people aren't going to be buying Halloween stuff at this point. So my sales are very slow right now. Makes sense if what I was selling in October was Halloween. Okay, but then we say they're making it easier to find the good stuff, quote unquote, good stuff on Etsy. Okay, they say this every time. They say that they've been saying this for years in every presentation. So I'm going to skip this. Okay. This is depressing. They're talking about all the technology they're using. They're still in love with AI. AI takes your listings down incorrectly. AI makes connections between listings that aren't necessarily right. AI is not perfect, but Etsy thinks it is. All right, so that's my opinion. That's my opinion. Transformation. I love the second part, transformation and how we measure and denote quote unquote success. Incremental GMS plus holistic improvements to customer experience and engagement. What the heck does that mean? I don't know what that means. I don't think Etsy knows what that means. They're basically saying we're not only looking at gross merchandise sales as an example of how successful we are. Well, let me break it to you, Etsy. You're a business, and that's what you're supposed to be looking at. How much are you making, right? And if your sales are dropping 6%, then maybe the holistic improvements to customer experience and engagement are not working the way that you thought they would. Okay, they did say that they are willing to block people's, like if you're on your phone and you're using the web version of Etsy instead of the app, they are willing to put lots of pop-ups up to tell people, download the app, download the app. And they say, we're willing to put up with that because it's making people download the app, and then we can have them on the app. This, again, is important for us to know because we need to know what the app looks like if people are shopping on the app, because it does look different from desktop. I do all my work on desktop, but I do have to pay attention to what the app looks like if I cared, which I don't at this point. But if you do care, you do need to look at the app. Okay, leading indicators that our search initiatives are working. So this is things that, this is leading indicators mean things we're kind of seeing right now, but we think might get better. This is BSing to massage the numbers, okay? But this is important, and it kind of explains, I think probably at the beginning of October when they made that shift to the shipping under $6 in the US, they probably rolled out this kind of stuff too, because they tend to do more than one thing at a time. Okay, so in this diversity section, expanding work to items with similar images, not just exact matches. Okay, so now they're not just using our titles and tags to determine what gets placed in search results. They're looking at the pictures too. Okay, this is important to understand because on one hand, and the next section is weird too, it doesn't make sense to me. They're not just looking for things that match the search queries anymore. So you might be put up in search for a search query that you don't have those words in your titles and tags, but your picture looks similar to the pictures in the other search results. Okay, to me, that's kind of messy because a lot of times things look like one thing and then they're not, but that's what they're doing. They're using AI, which they're massively in love with, to match similar images to find things to present in search. If this did, and I don't know this for sure, but if this did go into effect at the beginning of October, this would really change the search results a lot. If you saw your traffic and sales drop at the beginning of October, like a lot of people did, this could be part of why. Okay, because apparently there was they're expanding work to have this happen. And I'm not sure if they're doing this now, but I think they probably are, just because there was such a drastic shift at the beginning of October. The next part of this, though, says there has been a 40% reduction in search results where over 25% of listings look alike. Okay, this makes no sense to me if they're trying to show items with similar images. Okay. To expanding work to items with similar images, not just exact matches. So they want to show more of that. But then at the same time, this says this has resulted in a 40% reduction in search results where over 25% of listings look alike. I don't know what that even means. Okay, because if you're looking at images and then you're trying not to have the images look alike, I don't get it. But the basic thing to take away from this, regardless, they maybe have phrased this incorrectly, I don't know, but they're using pictures to put in search results, not just your titles and tags. That's the thing to take away. Okay. This says the quality. They're looking at like diversity of showing people different things. and also quality. They want to show better quality listings. And they say that this has resulted in a decrease at the rate at which buyers request refunds. Okay, that's good. And a positive trend in reviews. 4 and 5 stars are increasing, 3 stars are lower or decreasing. So that's good. I still know people who are getting bad reviews from crazy customers, but whatever. Now, this in tiny letters down here, it says all data reflect Etsy marketplace results and show early results since experiments launched for orders placed in Q3 24. Okay, so this is only based on Q3, and it says experiments launched. So they have been messing with things. So I don't know if this is a specifically in place policy right now, but they have tested this out. So that's based on their experiments. All right, and then they talked about how great this search visibility dashboard was. And okay, this really pissed me off during the presentation. It implied that this search visibility dashboard was what made us drop our shipping prices, because down here it says the additional visibility combined with tools that make it easy for sellers to take action have driven strong adoption, exceeding our ambitious targets. Okay, so they're saying it's this search visibility dashboard that sellers are so happy to have it. And this is example, Etsy marketplace sellers lowered shipping charges on 2.5 million items in Q3 24. Okay, well, that's because they told us then on October 6th or whatever, October 1st, I don't remember the date, but in September, they told us you need to drop your shipping or you're not going to be in search, right? So I think probably in September, a lot of people were dropping their shipping prices. I don't think it had anything to do with this, but it's not unusual for, investor presentations to have things conflated. Okay, and let me just go back because I did mention that your sales might have dropped in October. That's technically Q4, but if they're experimenting with this stuff, it's going to be like they're talking about this in Q3. So they were experimenting with it in Q3, just to be clear. Okay, because I realized that I said October, but yeah, I think that's, they might have experimented with it in Q3 and then I'm talking about the pictures, and then put it in place in Q4. I don't know. They're not going to tell us this stuff. This is the kind of thing that Etsy won't tell people. They'll mention it in investor presentations to show how great and techie they are, but whatever. Okay. We got clearer about why items belong on Etsy. We put sellers front and center in our marketing. Okay, we know that marketing is BS, so whatever. I'm not interested in your marketing, Etsy, because I still see gift baskets from the dollar store on your site, so whatever. But yeah, you can have this theme all you want, support small, originally made, and then you go and shut our listings down because you say that we didn't make them when we did. So I take that not seriously at all. Okay, in September they started the Etsy beta loyalty program. I don't know how that's going. They didn't really say. They said we're still testing it out. It's in beta, blah blah blah. They want, okay, this next part is important also, and this could also be another way that your sales have dropped. If your sales have dropped or your visibility has dropped, if your views have dropped. But see, the one thing, if your sales drop, don't look at just your revenue numbers. Go to look to see if your views and visits have dropped. Because if your traffic is dropping, then something's going on. If your sales are dropping, but your traffic is staying the same, it means that your listings are still being shown in search, but people aren't buying them. And that's two different things. All right. So if your views and visits have dropped, it means that you're not showing up in search as much. If your revenue has dropped, but your views and visits are the same, it means you are still showing up in search, but people aren't buying. Two separate things. So just remember that, because a lot of times people say my sales have dropped and I say, how are your views? And they're like, everything's the same. I was like, okay, well, then that could be something else. I don't know. But what they have done now, gift mode started out with 1.6, so 1,600 gift ideas, like in those little bubbles on gift mode, gift for her, gift for him, whatever. Now they've increased it to about 5,000. So what happens, and remember that they're pushing people to the app. So if you go to the app and the first thing that people see on the app is buttons to push, that's what they're going to do. They're not necessarily going to search for anything. So what's happened now is they have browse. It's a browse algorithm where Etsy is basically, yes, they're using search. I mean, they're using SEO. They're using your keywords, they're using your titles and tags, but they're really deciding what to put in front of people. So based on that, your titles and tags, yes, they're still important. Yes, you still need to do keyword research. Don't go away saying that I said this is not important. But there is this other algorithm that is being used and pushed by Etsy on the app and on desktop, but mostly on the app, where they're pushing people to download the app, remember, that doesn't even require people to type anything in. So Etsy is leading them down a path of pushing buttons to find listings that Etsy then suggests. And yes, at some point down that path, it does switch over to search. And I showed this in a different video. I talked about that in a different video. But this also, if they have increased the number of gift ideas that they have buttons for, then they're increasing the number of people who are on Etsy pushing buttons, and Etsy is controlling that search. People aren't typing things in. People are just pressing buttons to narrow down what they're looking for. And it's interesting because filters work differently than, like, sometimes you'll get a filtered search. And then if you type that same thing that's in the search bar, it's a long story. But if you type that same thing in, you're going to get a different result. So filters work different sometimes than the typing the same thing into the search bar as far as the results go. This could be what's screwing you up, because Etsy's filters are really being pushed on people, and the browse experience is really being pushed on people because Etsy wants to show people specific things. Okay, so that, I'm just saying that could be one thing. The images could be one thing. There's a lot going on here, but this, it seems like in October, they apparently were doing this in Q3, which would be up through September. And if they implemented all this at the same time they implemented the shipping cost thing, then that could be why people's October sales are so weird, because Etsy is showing people things that they want them to buy, and they're buying that. So then they talk about Depop and Reverb, and I guess they did okay. Okay, so let's see. Then it says we grew revenue. Okay, but remember GMS dropped. So where does revenue come from? Revenue comes from fees that we pay them. And I believe that, let's see, so GMS, here's the consolidated results. So this is basically all three. This is Etsy, Depop, and Reverb. GMS is down with all three, okay? Revenue, let's see, revenue is up a little bit. This is Q3 23 was $633 million. We're at $662 million. But if gross merchandise sales are down, where is revenue? Revenue is up because revenue is the fees that we pay. So that includes the money that they earn from selling us shipping labels, the money that they earn from payment processing, money that they earn from ads, the money that they earn from listing fees. Basically, Etsy is making money off of us at this point, but they're not selling as much. Okay, that's not good long term. And this is what I meant when I said I don't understand the stock market, because investors don't care where the money comes from. They're looking at revenue going up and they're like, good, that's what I like. Okay, but you can't continue to run a business where you're not selling as much year over year. It's not going to work long term. So they better do something. Now, the interesting thing, this is not a win-win. They said this and I just about lost it. Okay. Driving value for sellers and improving buyer experiences while also expanding take rate. Take rate is the amount of stuff they take from us fee-wise. Basically, it comes down to that. That's not a win-win because you're not selling as much GMS-wise. Anyway, you guys can go in and look at this if you want. This just made me mad. The one thing that they said was that they don't care. I don't know if I can find it in here. I think it's in this section, that they don't care if shops leave because they did lose sellers. Okay. And look, it says top categories and geographies came under pressure. So US sales and non-US sales both declined year over year. That's this chart over here. Everything declined. Okay. And then they have, oh, this was good. It's because of the elections in the UK and France, events tied to US politics, major sporting events. They said the Olympics was one reason why people weren't buying on Etsy. and also the Hurricane Helene. Now, yeah, hurricanes were bad this year, but they didn't affect a super wide area. And I don't think that they affected the three largest states that are bring us most customers. So this is some BS right here. Okay, site-wide gifting, GMS grows. Now see, they're pushing people to the gifting thing. Okay, personalized and customized items outpace site-wide performance. So personalized and customized, that's what people want. Back to school merchandise grew 5%. Well, that's great, but that's back to school. That's not going to carry over to other quarters. Okay. This is what I was interested in. Okay, relative strength in active and reactivated Etsy marketplace buyers, growth in repeat buyers. So active buyers dropped, and they have different definitions for this, like active buyers buy 1 to 2 times a year or something like that. They have definitions for what this is. New buyers are people who have never come to shop on Etsy before. That dropped almost 13%. Okay, so there we go. Reactivated buyers are people who bought on Etsy a long time ago, but then haven't come back to shop, and they came back another time. So that grew, but that's probably because they rolled out that Etsy Insider thing, right? Repeat buyers, I think, that's partly related to the reactivated buyers, because if somebody is a reactivated buyer and then they come back and buy something else, then now they're a repeat buyer. Habitual buyers are people who shop on Etsy a lot, and that's down almost 5%, not good. And the Q3 GMS from active buyers is down almost 4%. Okay, that's not good. The reactivated buyers thing is good. Repeat buyers is probably, connected to this somehow, but this isn't great. All right. Now this is the part that pissed me off. Oh my God. Okay, there's 6.2 million active Etsy marketplace sellers. Okay. Active seller count declined 8.5%, which we believe, and it probably is the direct result of stepped up enforcement actions, meaning they banned your shop and they told you don't make your own products. Well, a lot of people didn't, and they should have been banned, but a lot of people do make their own stuff. I have people in my groups who went through hell with Etsy this quarter because they're so fast to take shops down. There's no human customer service to make up for their mistakes. It's a nightmare. But they don't care, because then they can come in and say, look, we have this enforcement action. We took down all these things. But active seller count declined 8.5%. And, part of it is good, because it probably, with the identity verification, that probably prevented spammers from coming in and, opening shops. So that's good. This is what she said, that I've said this before. Etsy doesn't care if you close your shop. Etsy doesn't care if you leave the platform. Because with 100 million listings, Etsy is not supply constrained. Okay, no, I didn't mean to ask Copilot. Click on the wrong thing these days. So basically, this means that if sellers leave, it doesn't matter, because Etsy has so many listings, they can show something else that's similar in the place of the things that were taken off. And that's what she said. And this is Rachel Glazer, who is the CFO currently. She's retiring soon, but she's the CFO now. She said, it doesn't matter if people leave, because we have so many listings, we can just put something else that's similar up there. It's not a big deal. Etsy does not care if you leave. We are a commodity. We are a commodity to Etsy. Etsy has a business. Etsy's running their business, but you need to understand that Etsy does not owe you anything. Etsy, it does not feel like they owe you anything, because if you leave, that's okay. They've got other stuff they can put up there. Because I see people say, oh, if all of us leave, well, guess what? If everybody who's complaining leaves, they'll still have enough stuff to put up in search. I promise you. If 50% of Etsy sellers leave, they'll still have enough stuff to put up in search. I guarantee that. And there will still be people joining Etsy. Okay. The percent of sellers with a sale has been on a steady increase this year. Well, whoop-de-doo. I'm not on Etsy to make one sale, okay? And everything that they're doing now is just making my job more difficult. Anyway, then the rest of this is just more blah, blah, blah. They had a little Q&A where they were given some easy questions. And that's basically it. So if you have any questions about that, post them here. If you have comments, I'm sure people have comments, go ahead and post them, but you can see all these slides for yourself. And there's more that show the technical, like all of the balance sheets and all that kind of stuff. It's go to the Etsy website Down at the bottom, click on investors, and it's in the events and presentations. It'll be the webcast from October 30th, and you can click to see the slides there, or you can listen to the actual webcast replay. And that's usually very good to do, because I personally like listening to them, because you can see exactly what they say, and you can see the Q&A. And when investors ask them questions, that's very instructive. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is that Etsy's board approved a $1 billion stock buyback, which only, that just means that, let's say Etsy gives somebody stock as part of their employee salary, right? They can't keep giving stock away without buying some back, or else there's so much stock out there, it's just worthless. It's a supply demand thing. It's inflation, right? The stock isn't worth as much, just like money. If there's too much money in the system, like physical printed money, you have to bring some back in whatever way they're going to do that. But that's how Etsy buys their stock back in order to do that. So that's all that is. That's not a big, and they do that occasionally. They do buy stock back based on how much they've given out, so that it does keep their stock from being devalued just because of that. It's the simplistic way to explain it. It's not a big deal, but investors do like it, because that means that the stock price is going to be, a little more valuable just based on the amount that's available. Whatever. You still need to get your GMS up, Etsy. Okay, give this video a thumbs up and leave me any questions, but go look up the slides yourself, watch the presentation yourself, draw your own conclusions, and I will talk to you later.